Welcome to the Communicate Now podcast, where we talk about all things related to effective communication skills, everything from negotiation, public speaking, coaching, sociology, and my personal favorite, how to win friends and influence people. It is my vision to teach effective communication skills that will make a positive impact on your professional and personal lives. Now, today, I have a special guest with me. I'd like to give a warm welcome to Piere Gooch. Is that correct? Gooch?
You got it right. You got it
All
right.
right. A remote sales professional, academic, highly intelligent. He has over $2 million in sales with a 0.02% refund rate. He's a junior reporter of human behavior and change. And now take a look at all the places that he studied at. In terms of sales, the straight line persuasion system, North Star selling system at Objection Box with Bill Walsh, NEPQ sales system with Jeremy Miner, content marketing and advertisement at Legendary Marketer, sales and marketing and process automation at Scaling with Systems, Dan Locke University, inbound sales marketing and social media marketing at HubSpot Academy. But most of all, he's just an all-around great guy. There's my introduction for you.
I think I'm gonna pass out.
So yeah, thanks for coming, Pierre. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing quite well. I've seen you had a lot of great people on here, and I'm honored to be one of them.
Great. Thank you. I'm really glad to have you on. And the last time we spoke, I realized that you really have a lot to offer. You're very intelligent. I think this is going to be a great interview. So
Yes.
I have a number,
Or this could go horribly wrong. One of the
or it
two.
could go horribly long. You know what? Either way, it's fine. Either way, it's fine. Now, so we spoke briefly before, and you told me about a number of things that you were really interested in. And one thing that you talked about was state control.
Yes.
Right? Now, could you explain what and how that affects your sales process?
All right, cool. So I want to give a bit of for those who don't know what state control is. State control is the ability to self-manage. It's the ability to control and regulate your own emotions.
Okay.
Which, if you are a salesperson, if you are a leader, if you are a person in a relationship, husband, wife, brother, son, pastor, what have you, then the most important thing that you can do is to regulate your own emotions. As a matter of fact, as a bit of a tidbit, for those of you who are involved in the influence world, one of the ways in which you can know right off the bat if you are being influenced is by watching the change of your current emotional state. So if you are really excited and upbeat, you're feeling good, you're feeling energized, and then all of a sudden you encounter a person or a situation, and you begin to find yourself drifting more to being angry or sad or what is it, like lukewarm or neutral. And what is happening is that you are subtly but surely being influenced, right? So state control is the ability to manage your own state. Now, in terms of like selling and communication, this looks like being able to maintain a consistent way of being, how I feel from moment to moment, time to time, right? It's also about being able to pick and choose how I want to feel from time to time. So for example, if I'm working with a client, and they come on the call and they're excited and they're beating out, they're ready to roll, then I want to be able to kind of match their energy at some level with that person. At the same time, if they're coming on there a bit more skeptical, they're a bit more like, what am I doing this and what is this for? Then I want to be, hey, this is going to be the most amazing thing you're going to ever do in your life. No, I want to be able to be a bit more neutral, a bit more laid back, like a librarian, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Kind of being able to assess where they are to be able to redirect them to where they need to be, because maybe it's with us, maybe it's somewhere else, maybe they completely don't know what's going on, and I'm there to try to provide some information to give them context if this interaction between you and I is the right thing for them, right? So it's being able to manage how you feel from time to time, moment to moment.
Now, I would imagine that you your observations of your prospects will become sharper and sharper over time, and the
Yes.
experience that you gain with trying to bring that into a sale and add value to the call is going to change as well, along with everything that you study. Can you give just a brief summary, maybe for someone that is going through where they go on sales calls and the prospect is very, very skeptical of them?
Mhm.
What's a kind of a simple way that you can turn that around? Because I think that's a difficult thing for a lot of sales professionals to deal with.
Okay, very good. So one of the most important things you can do, even before you get on a call with someone, is you can have within your, like, as an intention, the desire to connect.
Yes.
Right. One of my favorite quotes has been, you can learn to love anyone if you knew their story. Right. And sometimes the tactics and strategies themselves, the language patterns and all those kinds of things don't come off as well as they could because there's no internal desire to connect.
Okay.
Right. Um, so we want to have that, at least that unconscious kind of loop, like I really, really want to connect. I really want to kind of make a bridge with this person. Now, when it comes down to what to say, let's say they're coming on the call and they've been more skeptical, like, I'm really not sure what this is all about. You can be like, I can appreciate you even taking the time to kind of get on this call with me. And really at the present time, I'm not really sure how exactly we can help you, but if it's okay, what I'd like to do is just ask you maybe a couple questions just to make sure you're in the right place and to see if
Uh,
there's a possibility of us helping you, right? Right. You see how this is different? Like there's a desire to connect, and
yes.
then a desire to connect therefore creates the language that I want to use. And I want to kind of double back on something you said a bit earlier about being able to perceive the emotional state of people.
Yes.
Language itself is fairly new, right? Being able to use words and phrases, language patterns, all that kind of stuff, those are all still fairly new. But we've always been able to perceive emotions, being
Yes.
able to perceive what a person is feeling and how they're feeling. One of the most common kind of jokes that we tell in the influence world is just like, even when you were a kid, you would try to pick and choose which adult you would ask, which one of your parents you would ask, based upon what mood they were in,
Yeah.
right?
So
So if
they
you
can
want to
get
watch
away
TV
with
that
what
night,
they want.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Little deceivers, no.
Yeah.
So like, so yeah, so like we're kind of we because we don't have the use of language when we're young, we're trying to pick up on the subtle cues that are being presented all the way around us. A great example of this is I don't know if you've ever read the book by Robert Greene called The Laws of Human Nature, but he tells a story. He tells a story about probably one of the most famous hypnotists of all time. He says that when his name is Milton Erickson, and he talks about the Milton Erickson, when he was young, he couldn't speak. And so what he would do in order to kind of perceive what was going on around him is that he would just be intentionally hyper focused upon the changes in people's behavior. So he tells a story about how he would watch his sisters and how their yes would sometimes mean yes, and sometimes their yes would mean no.
Mhm.
Sometimes their yes would mean I don't want to talk about this. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So these subtle kind of movements, as we begin to pay more attention now, as you kind of grow up a bit more, you begin to place more value on spoken communication. You begin to kind of put your ability to perceive nonverbal stuff a bit on the back burner, but it's always kind of that comes up for you as something like a gut feeling. Like, I don't know what it is about this person. I really, really like this person, or I really don't like this person, or
Yeah.
something about this person doesn't make really, really, really a whole lot of sense. This is not a logical thing. It's a feeling, it's an internal feeling. Now, you become more skilled at threshing those things out as you become more educated, but the intent, the feelings themselves will always be there.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
and there is a very famous poker player named Doyle Brunson. Doyle
Okay.
Brunson is he wears a cowboy hat. He's a very famous poker player. And he would
Mm,
say that intuition is nothing more than seeing the same repeated behavioral patterns over and over.
mm,
And so your brain understands those behavioral patterns, but you might not consciously think of it as you're watching someone, because he would read other
mm.
poker players, but he would get a
That's good,
feeling in his
man.
gut that something was not right, and so
That's
he
good,
thought his
man.
opponent was bluffing. And so
That's good.
that was really
That's
interesting.
good.
And
That's good, man.
yeah,
I couldn't have said that better myself. That's absolutely perfect.
yeah, yeah. And I think that it's required to have interest in another person to want to connect, and it's required to actually want to connect with a person. It has to be
Hmm.
congruent, right? Or
Right.
else it comes off as fake and something's not right. That incongruency makes you realize that something's not right, and it removes
Right.
the trust disappears in the relationship. Um,
Yes.
there are some people that may just not have, maybe may just not want to really, really connect with someone.
Yes.
And how is it possible that someone could actually generate that? Because it has to do with empathy. How could that be
Mm.
generated?
Being able to become interested in another person. So first of all, when I say that a person is not interested, what you're talking about that there's a feeling there. There's a feeling of disinterest.
Yes.
Now, the way I would like to explain it is that emotions are governed by thoughts and imagination. So one of the things that you can do is that you can just literally say within yourself, this person is the most important person in this room, right?
Yeah.
This is probably the most important conversation I'm going to have.
Yeah.
Now, for me personally, I find that writing down the things that are said makes it easier for me to kind of cultivate curiosity on a call. So I just got to doing this. I was just got off a call a few moments ago, and this woman, she's from India, and she got on the call with me, and she began to talk. But you can tell she's a bit like a bit standoffish.
Yeah.
So the only thing I spent my time doing was I spent my time writing down unique words that she was using, like side income or travel from India or nursing. There's things that are not common to be heard. I wrote those things down and I would just feedback what she was saying. So it sounds like you just recently traveled from India, you're in Canada right now, and it seems like things are a bit more expensive than they used to be, now that you're in Canada. And so now you're looking for another way to be able to generate some supplemental income. Is that true? And you can just see just her like just light up on the inside and her kind of leaning into what I had to say because I took the time to pay attention to unique words and phrases that she was using and then giving those things back to her. One of the things I shared on our call the last time was is that communication is a feedback loop,
Yes.
right? Everything in the universe is a feedback loop. That includes communication. And honest and genuine communication is the response you get from the other person. So when I say something to someone, what I got back is what I was actually saying,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So if I'm trying to connect, if I'm intentionally trying to connect with a person, and I spend the time to use the words or phrases they are using, then I create a feedback loop of interest.
Yeah.
Right? So if I'm giving the interest first, then I'm giving that interest back as a reciprocal effect.
You really have very deep, articulate explanations on these subjects. And that's what I have to say, much more so than well, I won't say that, but much more so
No, no,
than
no,
the
get
people
yourself in trouble.
but much more so than a lot of people I know. Hey, I have a lot of brilliant people coming on here. All right. Wow. It's really good. And I have other questions here that have to do with our previous conversation as well.
Sure.
Some of those I'd like to bring up.
Okay.
Now, yes, you said or okay. When you're not in an environment where you're going to be around great communicators, it
I
doesn't
see.
induce the natural response to want to become better. And that's something that you said last time. So there's going to
Yes.
be a lot of people watching this that are just starting their networking and sales journey. What advice would you give to
Hmm.
someone trying to find and build a network of great communicators so they can naturally improve their sales, networking, and build professional relationships?
Okay. So this kind of hinges on a thought of mentors versus heroes, which was brought up by a guy by the name of Seth Godin, who wrote the book Marketers Are Liars, and it crosses out into storytellers and linchpin and perfect cow and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a big emphasis in the world of business and life that you need to find a mentor. Hey, find a mentor, find a mentor, find a mentor. And finding mentors is good if you can find them. The problem, however, is that it's a disproportionate amount of people to any one mentor. So let's say that you want to be mentored by, Elon Musk, let's say, or Tony Robbins, since you're talking about
Yeah.
communication. Do you know how many people would like to be mentored by Tony Robbins?
Yeah.
And the likelihood of you finding yourself in his orbit to be able to mentor personally by Tony Robbins is very, very difficult and highly unlikely. As a matter of fact, a great marketer named Russell Brunson, to get into Tony's inner circle, it took him a full decade to do. So imagine trying to put off your entire development in communication for an entire decade. It's just not feasible. It doesn't make sense. So what you want to do instead is that you want to look for heroes. You want to look for people who inspire you. Okay, so there are a few ways you can do this. I find that comedians are really, really good. So find comedians that you resonate with. Some of
Mm.
my personal favorites are like Gabriel Iglesias,
Yeah.
Ralph Barbosa. He's a good guy. Uh, what's the guy name?
Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle is good. Dave
Yeah.
Chappelle is a good one. Very articulated communicator.
Oh yeah.
Another great communicator is look at actors. Actors make a living communicating. And I'm not just talking about communicating words, I'm talking about full body communication,
Yeah.
right? So being able to watch great actors. Some of my favorites like would be like a guy like a name Denzel Washington or Tom Cruise or George Clooney is an amazing communicator.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves is a good one. You
Yeah.
know, podcasters is another one. So people like Joe Rogan, people
Yeah.
like Steve Evans, who runs a show called Hot Ones, which is a show with hot
Yes.
questions
Yes.
on how to win.
He is incredible. And also, I'm
Mm-hmm.
reminded of a guy that used to be on Much Music called Nardwar. That guy did incredible
Ah,
as
yes.
well. He would
That
read.
guy scared you for not caring. That guy's something else, boy. He
I
scares every person he
know.
gets up to. Are
And
you sure you lived in Chicago? You know somebody named Martha? And he's
yeah,
like, he's, yeah. If you
yeah.
haven't seen the guys, you gotta need to check that guy. He's really into something.
And
But
you also
also,
Russell Brand.
also another one would be Russell Brand was another one, exactly.
Yeah.
Another one would be musicians and singers, right? So again, you want to look at people who don't just communicate ideas, but they're communicating feelings, which is different.
Yes.
You know what it's like to be to someone to talk at you, right? To just give you a bunch of information, just like your college and your high school years. But
Yes.
you also know what it's like to have someone communicate with you in such a way that you feel the weight of their words when they speak.
Yes. They're
Completely
very
different.
impactful.
Yeah. So find heroes. Search through the internet. If you can find some people in your local area, that's great. But the internet has made it possible for us to be connected to some of the most powerful communicators on the planet at the comfort of our couches.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
that's right. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised in the short future. I would say even 10 years max, there are going to be very accurate AI replicas of very famous coaches that you can get on your
Mhm.
computer. It's going to be probably rented monthly or something, and who knows how much it's going to cost, but you'll have an AI Tony Robbins that can coach you from the comfort of your own home. And can you imagine what that's going to be like?
That would be something. I mean, like I have a thing on my computer that helps me read called Speechify.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite readers is Snoop Dogg. So I listen to Snoop Dogg read out my boring material.
Yeah.
And it makes it all worth it. I'm like, yeah, DO double G is doing this, and the thing. I'm like, oh yeah, let's do that. It's totally correct. Yeah,
Great.
so I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised for sure.
Yeah. And you spoke once. Oh, this was a really great quote from you. And it
Mhm.
says, "The real power of persuasion is empathy. And
Oh
if you
yes,
can and if you can master empathy, you can rule the world. You can do
yes,
more with empathy than you can do with physical strength."
yes,
That's
yes,
three quotes
yes,
in one. But
yes.
can you elaborate on that?
Oh yes. I've been really thinking about this for a long time. I think that in terms of like the world that you live in, which is driven by information, the person who is able to clearly understand and articulate information in a way that resonates with other people can rule the world.
Yeah.
If you think about past presidents, I remember this. I kind of go back to that, but I remember this. The speaker, his name is Vin Gang, and um, he said, let's say that you are an IT engineer, and you walk into a room, and you have all the degrees and scholarships and the names and the numbers behind your name, but you cannot communicate. Are you perceived as an authority or not an authority? The answer is obvious. You wouldn't be perceived as an authority. Why? Because people can't resonate with your communication. So a person who is able to master empathy, being able to be upon the same level, enter into someone else's model of the world, will be able to rule the world. I mean, if you think about it, even right now, empathy usurps human-driven systems. I know you had asked
Yes.
what
Yes.
human-driven systems were. Human-driven systems are any system that is run by human beings,
Yes.
right? So this is a legal system. This is the food and drug thing, the medical community. If it is a system and it is run by humans or overseen by humans, it can be hacked using empathy. I'll give you a great example of this. So let's say that you are driving down the street. It's 8 o'clock at night. You have the music blasting. You have the music blasting, and you're driving down the street. And you go like 90 miles an hour, and you get a ticket.
Yeah.
Right? You go to court. You go to court, and you say, "I just say, how do you plead?" And you say, "I plead guilty." And then you say, "Why were you driving so fast?" And you say, "Your Honor, I really do apologize for taking this time on when I know you have other things that you can be doing. But the real truth is that I was really speeding down the street to kind of get my wife to the hospital because she was pregnant."
Yeah. Mhm.
But why did you have the music blasting? Because that was the only thing to keep her calm. Now, when a judge hears that case, does he automatically default to like going ahead and giving you the ticket and writing you the fine, or does he automatically opt towards forgiving the debt?
Yeah.
He opts towards forgiving the debt. Now, what changed? The law is still the law, isn't it?
Yes.
You ran the speed sign. You ran that. That's a law. You violated that. But because of empathy, it helps you. I hate to say this because it makes it sound like I'm a bad person. But because of the use of empathy, you literally hack the legal system just by doing that. People that get convicted are not convicted because they're guilty, right? They get convicted because they cannot, or whoever's representing them, cannot make the judge and the jury empathize with them, which is the reason why hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars are spent on helping to train lawyers on how to speak to the judges and pick juries.
Oh,
There
yeah.
are consultants that do this. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Because,
Why? It's
yeah.
not the facts. Yeah,
Yeah. They want to
madness.
arouse
That's the madness.
empathy or sympathy so that their client will not get charged. They're going to say, well, take a look at how he grew up, or take a look at what had happened to him. And that's
Exactly.
why he's behaving in the way that he does.
Exactly.
You
Which
know,
has no bearing on anything. The fact that he did the
exactly. I
crime,
know
he's
it
guilty.
really doesn't. It
But
really,
it's like it's the fact that this person has created a narrative by which induces a sense of empathy within the person who hears it. And because of that, they completely bypass the facts for the sake of saying, you know what, he really didn't mean it. Or he's not the cause of this. It's really something completely different. You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
I was watching this case of this famous rapper. I can't remember what his name is. He's a young guy, and what he did was is that apparently he was a part of a group that shot down these random individuals, whatever it was. And I watched the case, watched a highlight reel of the case, and you could see the guy who was being convicted. He stood there laughing and joking and playing around in the corner.
Mhm.
No sense of remorse, no sense of like awareness of the real severity of the situation. He's laughing and joking around like that. You know what happened to him? He got convicted and he's in prison right now.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
a person who understands the real power of persuasion is empathy. And the stronger you are, the more skilled you are at empathy, the more you'll be able to kind of make your way in life, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So there are people who depend on their physical strength. They depend on their positions. They depend on their looks or whatever the case may be. And yeah, there are things you can do at face value with those things. But there's far more things you can do with just having the ability to empathize and to persuade other people than you can with just being able to have the outward appearance of strength.
Yeah. And when you talked about, when you specifically said, empathy is more powerful than physical strength. And when I hear that, I think about empathy can move mountains. That's what I think.
Yes.
And one specific example I can give when I think about that is Bob Marley, because Bob
Yes.
Marley's music was very influential and it was all about peace. And he made a
Hmm.
significant difference. And he believed that, you can pass your message on through peaceful music. That is a way to actually change even
Hmm.
political strife.
Exactly right.
It's a way to
Exactly
do
right.
that. And yeah, there's a lot of artists out there that they aim for that. They aim for revolution, whether it be for good or bad, but they want to persuade.
I remember this quote one time, um, and the quote was, I can't remember who said it, what, but he said, the music that we sing today will become the foundations of our theology tomorrow,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
right? So the people who really have the power to influence are your musicians and your singers and your actors and your creators, your poets, because they understand how to move people emotionally.
I just hope that Taylor Swift doesn't rule the world one day. Because
That'll be a
yeah,
dark day.
the pop music out there these days, I
But
would
think about
prefer,
it, like,
I
who
would,
look at the people who moved into office. Like Ronald Reagan was an actor.
oh yeah.
Ronald Reagan was an actor. The Rock is trying to run for president.
Yeah.
He's never done anything political,
No, no, no.
but it's because they understand how to move people emotionally. They may be terrible in government, but they just know how to move people emotionally.
I wish Dave Chappelle would would run for office too. Oh, that would be
Oh
great.
man,
That'd be great.
it definitely.
Oh my God. All right. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
man.
other stuff here that I want to get into.
Sure.
Let me take a look. Oh, okay. We talked about stand-up comedians. We talked about priming the well, being around good communicators. Yeah. So I remember because you have studied so many different styles of sales from so many different schools.
Yes.
And you had said, and one of the quotes you had said to me before was, many instruments create beautiful music,
Yes.
right? So, judging by your experience with all the, sales programs,
Okay.
how would that quote relate to all the different styles of sales?
The reason why there's so many different kinds of sales is because there's so many different kinds of people,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I was asked this question. I get this question a lot because people look at my social media and they see all the different sales programs I'm in. They'll ask me questions like, which one is the best
Oh,
sales
yes.
methodology, or like, which one do you prefer the best? I got this one question one time, which completely came out of left field, which was, if you could get rid of one of them, what would you do? I was like, that's a terrible question. Okay, but
Yeah.
anyway, and one of the things I say to them all the time is just like martial arts, all styles of selling work some of the time.
Okay.
All of them work some of the time. What makes them more effective is when you understand the person in front of you, right? So the key to persuasion and empathy is making it focused, highlighting the person that you're dealing with in front of you. So, for example, if I'm dealing with, let's say that I'm dealing with a person who's more skeptical, I may not need to pull a Jordan Belfort and, hey, how you doing today? I may need to pull a Sandler. Well, I'm just like, I'm really not sure that we can actually help you just yet. But if you're open to it, we can definitely have a conversation about that. You see what I'm saying? I'm more neutral, more negative, and more relaxed. But let's say that I'm dealing with a case where I'm objection handling, right? And the person is really, really afraid. They're really, really nervous about, being able to take that next step. Then I may need to take some time to kind of nurture and reassure them and talk about all the benefits that have come along with making this next step, taking it in, like a Jordan Belfort, talking about all the benefits of support and guidance, making sure the things that I'm saying are right on point,
Yeah.
right? Because at the end of the day, there are only three things. I can't remember, but there are like three things you can influence at any given time, which is thoughts and images, thoughts and imaginations, and then emotions.
Okay.
Thoughts, imaginations, and emotions. So whenever you're standing in front of a person or sitting in front of them on Zoom, Just understand if you can imagine a brain, what you're dealing with are the electrical signals in their brain,
Yeah.
the thoughts and the images, the imaginations, the pictures that they're making in their mind, and then the emotional state that they're in, right? And so we use the various different styles, the different elements of the different styles. I think it's a better way of saying that. The different elements of the different styles for the sake of making the person feel as confident and as certain about taking the next step in the commitment cycle, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Yeah. And something that I've always been very interested in, uh,
Mm-hmm.
actors. I consider myself to be a little bit artistic myself. I do play the guitar, so I'm a little bit of a musician. Don't ask me to
Oh
sing.
wow.
It's gonna, yeah,
See, you
yeah.
free up the couch over there. We can have concerts.
Yeah, yeah. And everything from music to movies and acting to poetry and like rap music too. Some people don't consider rap music. It's poetry and it's music at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something called method acting, which is
Mm-hmm.
something that I found very intriguing. And it's where a person will go into, well, actually, I'm going to read out the definition here. Method
Mm-hmm.
acting is a range of training and rehearsal techniques that actors
Mm-hmm.
use to encourage sincere and emotionally expressive performances. And
Yes.
so, do you think these same techniques can be used to improve our sales skills?
It's a very good question. And I have to think about that.
Take your time.
So I think a portion of that can. I think though, I think the challenge, especially if you are not necessarily as good at communicating across different personality types, I think being able to remain neutral is the most effective,
Hmm.
especially if you are a beginning salesperson. Um, Personality selling, being able to get into the mind of the person that you're talking to is good and it has its value. But the challenge, however, with things like that is like when you're trying to grow your skill set, you want to minimize how many things you have to know. So this is not a if, this is not a this or that. This is a but and. So we're looking at a gradient scale, right? So as you begin to grow in your professional ability, you're growing your skill set, including the ability to kind of model the word I want to use, model the person in front of you, right?
Yeah.
So at the beginning stage, and I'm saying this because I know you have a wide, vast audience of great individuals. What you want to do is you want to spend your time focusing in on being more neutral, a bit more universal. So using statements like might, possibly, potentially, things like that. And not trying to be overly excited, but being more calm and relaxed.
Yeah.
Because if you try to do too much too soon, what you'll do is you'll muddy the waters of your communication, which means you won't be able to track to see what has been effective versus ineffective,
Yeah.
right?
And yeah. Yeah. We went over a lot of things today. It was really good. Um, I would love to have you on again in the future too. And I'm gonna wrap
Sweet.
this up. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up too. I have a lot of guests coming on. I got Joel Elster, I think, is gonna come on.
Ah, yes.
I might get a university professor of
Mm,
negotiation. So, and I'd like to get some women on here too. So I gotta, because it's only been male
yes.
guests I've had so far. So I'd love to get some female guests on here as well.
Good.
And if there's anyone show them your own interview. Said, look how good I look. You can look just as good as me if you come on Steven's interview, right? I just,
Yeah.
before we wrap up, for so many people watching this video, and they may be very new to networking. Maybe they've been in sales for a long time, but they want to
Mm.
get to the remote sales community or they want to learn to network at in-person events. What advice would you give to people that are very reluctant or maybe believe, why would that person want to talk to me? They have too much status. I'm nobody, and they're just anxious and they're unwilling to step outside their comfort zone. What advice would you give to them to let them know that they can do it, put themselves out there. It's okay. You're going to be safe. And so that they can get connected with other professionals and find opportunities out there. What advice would you give to them?
I think the most important advice that you can give any communicator, not just in networking, is be prepared.
Be prepared.
Be prepared. Part of your preparation is being able to handle your own objections. So I see this a lot of the. Do I need to say it again?
Yeah, though that was just, I never thought of that. That was interesting.
Yeah. So handling your own objections.
Yeah.
So going back to the same we talked about a bit earlier, which is like the only thing you can influence at any given time are the thoughts, the imaginations, and the emotions, right? So if we know that all those things will be the composite of our state, our emotional state, we want to have those things in place before we step into a room,
Hmm.
right? Because I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but have you ever seen someone and you just feel like there was a light on them? Like they're in a crowd and it just seems like there was a light on them. Like it's just something about them. It seems to like reverberate in a room,
Yeah.
right? That's because there's a congruency in their thoughts, their imaginations, and their emotions. So one of the things you want to be able to do is you want to handle your own objections. If you have fears and concerns about things like that, then educate yourself. What would you have to bring to the table? Get those things settled before you go into a room so that you're coming in as a person of value, not just a person who wants something from someone else. That'd be the first thing I would do. The second thing that I would do in regards to preparation is to have a good understanding about why you're connecting with people, right? The quality of a network, the quality of a network is determined by the number of quality relationships that person has. And quality networking is based on two principles, two big pillars, okay? Which is generosity and intimacy. Generosity and intimacy. What I have to offer. Now, sometimes what you have to offer may be just a thank you. And maybe just talking about what you've learned from that person or some in a platform or something like that, celebrating their achievements and their success. But intimacy has to do with how deeply past the role that they play, you're able to go. So are you able to talk about things that are non-business related? Like,
Yeah.
are you able to talk about friends and family? Are you able to talk about their birthdays? Are you able to talk about their interests, their hopes, and their dreams? Things they really want to see happen in the world. Are you able to have that conversation, discuss their beliefs and the morals of the world? Are you able to have those kinds of sensitive conversations? That is a determining factor about how quality your network actually is.
And I think that makes me think of one thing that I've always wanted to say because it sounds catchy,
Mm-hmm.
but it's true. And if you want to learn how to win friends and influence people.
Yes.
In order to influence people, you must win them as friends first.
Yep.
And when you develop interest in people and you develop yourself, develop a correct mindset, you can really make changes in the world through empathy as well, like you had discussed earlier. I think I'm
Yeah. The
going to
most
wrap
important
this up.
relationship. Yeah.
Mhm.
The most important relationship that you can win is the one with yourself,
Yeah.
right? You can't, you never, you're not communicating what you say, you're communicating who you are as a person. I can't remember who it was that said it. He said, who you are speaks so loudly that I can't hear what you say,
Hmm.
right? So I would say play the game on multiple levels, like spend the time cultivating the skill of going out and meeting new people. That's obviously important. But also in the background, win the relationship with yourself. Create your own kind of pockets of order, a way in which you can convince yourself that you are a value, providing yourself with the evidence that you are a person who will be good to know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
So great, so great. This has been such a great discussion. I've learned so much. The audience is going to learn so much. I'm so happy that I could put this channel together and bring people on from
Yes.
different disciplines that have different perspectives. I think it's so
Yes.
great to see the different perspectives, and you can just learn so much. So
Yes, man.
thank you so much for
Amazing job.
coming on, Pierre. And I'm just going to wave goodbye to the audience here and stop the recording. See you guys later.